So the man who blew up the Tesla Cybertruck in front of the Trump Hotel in Vegas just left behind a manifesto. I don't know what the heck is going on in the world where everyone is leaving behind these manifestos after tragic events, but we got another one, and it is the sketchiest one of them all. So, who is the guy that did this? His name is Matthew Livelsberger, and he was actually a Green Beret in the US military, and it looks like he did this whole event to send a message. Didn't look like he was trying to hurt anyone other than himself. He took his own life before the truck exploded, but he left back a manifesto. And he sent the manifesto to this man via email, and he reads this manifesto on the Sean Ryan show, and there's a lot of information. I mean, he claimed he knew what the drones in the sky were, so let's see what this guy had to say.
I still work in intelligence. I'm an intelligence officer. I work for a nonprofit. We Remnant Ministries out of Texas. In fact, the website is in my bio on X. I work for Dr. Pete Chambers, Green Beret. Told me who he was in the email. He pointed me to his LinkedIn account. I didn't know any of this stuff. And I was just kind of being humorous with my audience. Like, I get these crazy messages sometime. And then the day after that message, I wake up and my buddy was like, "Hey, Sam, nobody in the community seems to know this guy. Do you happen to know who he is?" And I played that for you before we came up here. Just absolute shock. That's how I woke up
Do
yesterday.
you want to play it now?
Yeah. Excuse my language. I was definitely in shock. Let me find this chat. So,
You know, while you're digging through that, you know what we should do? I should get that Instagram account from you to see if they messaged any of our Instagram accounts. And we should also get that
I
email
don't have it. I
address.
deleted it.
You deleted it.
He told me to delete it, and I deleted it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We should also get that email address and see if they sent it in through the website and see if he tried to contact us. Get that to the FBI.
So I'm in a
Hopefully
military.
they actually do something.
Yeah, I'm in a military group chat. Buddy Green Beret, Corey, he says, "At Sam, no, nobody I've asked in the community knows him. You is at 8:46 a.m. yesterday." So I woke up and I said, "OF, I'm shaking. This guy emailed me 2 days ago. I'm not playing." And then he said, "Damn." And then this was my response to him at 8:48. Like, just woke up.
Dude, I'm fucking shaking, bro. You don't understand. This guy emailed me and told me he was being watched by the FBI and Homeland Security, but they weren't going to do anything to him because he had a VBID. I'm not fucking playing, dude. I have the email. I am shaking, man. This is nuts.
And it goes from there. And I sat there for probably an hour talking to my wife. I'm shaking. I can't even think straight. Like, normal day is shot. And I didn't know what I want to do. Do I sit on this? Do I do nothing with it? I've got to tell somebody. I've got to tell the FBI at least, because this is huge. This is all over the news. And then I was like, well, dude, this guy wanted to get in contact with Sean Ryan. So let me get this to Sean Ryan, see if I can get with him. And I had a buddy who knew your producer, and we went from there. But
Wow. Do you want to read the email?
Yep. So this email came in on December 31st at 10:42 a.m. That is Tuesday. He said, "In case I do not make it to my decision point or on to the Mexico border, I am sending this now. Please do not release this until 1 January and keep my identity private until then. First off, I am not under duress or hostile influence or control. My first car was a 2006 black Ford Mustang V6 for verification. What we have been seeing with drones," he puts that in quotes, he says drones, "is the operational use of gravitic propulsion systems powered aircraft by most recently China and the East Coast, but throughout history, the US. Only we in China have this capability. Our OPSEN, that's Operation Center, our OPSEN location for this activity is in the box below. China has been launching them from the Atlantic from submarines for years, but this activity recently has picked up. As of now, it is just a show of force, and they are using it similar to how they used the balloon for SIGINT and ISR, which are also part of the integrated comm system. There are dozens of those balloons in the air at any given time. The so what is because of the speed and stealth of these unmanned aircraft. They are the most dangerous threat to national security that has ever existed. They basically have an unlimited payload capacity and can park it over the White House if they wanted. It's checkmate. U.S. government needs to give the history of this, how we are employing it and weaponizing it, how China is employing them and what the way forward is. China is poised to attack anywhere in the East Coast. I've been followed for over a week now from likely Homeland or FBI, and they are looking to move on me and are unlikely going to let me cross into Mexico, but won't because they know I am armed and I have a massive VBID. Let me pause right there for a second. So he says a massive VBID. When I was talking to the FBI yesterday, they didn't know what a VBID was. I had to explain what that acronym meant, literally.
You fucking serious?
Dead serious. I said it twice and he goes, you said that word VBID. Can you tell me what that is? For your audience, a VBID, for your audience who has not been in the GWOT for the last 20 years, a VBID is a vehicle-borne improvised explosive device. In layman's terms, a car bomb, what we saw at Trump Tower. So backing up, he says, I am armed and have a massive VBID. I've been trying to maintain a very visible profile and have kept my phone, and they are definitely digitally tracking me. Here's where he gets into the other stuff. And this is where we had to redact the names. Well, your producer redacted the names. I have knowledge of this program and also war crimes that were covered up during airstrikes in Nimruz province, Afghanistan in 2019 by the admin, DOD, DEA, and CIA. I conducted targeting for these strikes of over 125 buildings. 65 were struck because of civcas, that's civilian casualties, that killed hundreds of civilians in a single day. U.S. FORA continued strikes after spotting civilians on initial ISR. It was supposed to take 6 minutes and scramble all aircraft in CENTCOM. The UN basically called these war crimes, but the administration made them disappear. I was part of that cover-up with U.S. FORA, an agent, redacted, of the DEA. So I don't know if my abduction attempt is related to either. I worked with redacted IO staff on this as well as the response to Bala Murghab. Redacted commander at the time, redacted can validate this. You need to elevate this to the media so we avoid a world war because this is a mutually assured destruction situation. Then he says, for vetting, my LinkedIn is Matt Berg or Matthew Livelsberger, an active duty 18 Zulu out of 110, that's 1st Battalion 10th Special Forces Group. My profile is public. I have an active TSSCI with UAP, USAP access.
What is USAP? Do you know what that is?
I don't know what that is. But I checked his credentials on LinkedIn. So that was the first thing I did. I went to his LinkedIn page. First thing I noticed was all of his bona fides were in place. He has all the UAS training from USASOC and everything else. And so I said, okay, at least the guy knows what he's talking about with drones. That was a very rough dig into the guy. But my issue was I couldn't validate or verify any of this information. And I told him that. And how I responded to him was in a subsequent email. I said, this is obviously a very big deal, but I don't have anything to verify this information with. Talking about gravitic propulsion systems without evidence just makes me another UFO talking head. Like, I'm not going to go on my social media page and start talking about UFOs and anti-gravity systems and everything. I don't know what you're talking about. I can't. And he said, can I get on Fox News Contact on Signal as well as Sean's show? Hegseth would be good too. That was his last message to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is, what is a gravitic propulsion system?
To be honest with you, it is a fancy term you're going to find in science fiction. You won't find it in any, as far as I know, you won't find this in any kind of official manual or, scientific research. This is all science fiction. So, but what struck me is his use, what strikes me now, not then, but what strikes me now is his use of a very specific term that nobody else call it. If you asked me, I would say an anti-gravity propulsion system. That's how I would describe it because I don't know this stuff. He said gravitic propulsion system.
We looked that up last night too, and all we could find was same thing, science fiction type stuff. But no matter where you're watching Sean Ryan,
I take these things with a grain of salt, man, because this is a lot. This is a man who took his life and blew up a Cybertruck to send the world a message. Before he did this, his wife reportedly just broke up with him. I'm not saying it's all lies. I'm just saying I am very skeptical when things like this happen. And we're going to watch Ian Carroll's breakdown of this, and he just pretty much exposes this whole situation. So now check this out.
So the Tesla Cybertruck car bombing in Las Vegas has turned into the craziest reverse psyop story ever. And it's still developing, but I'm going to run through all of the evidence in all directions that I have found so far. So hopefully it's easy to kind of pick up where we're at right now and see what comes next. First thing, super iconic, not an accident. But the question is, not an accident, why? And who's actually behind it? Because the media is pinning everything on Matthew Allen Livelsberger because they found his passport and his ID and a bunch of stuff of his in the car. Though the car blew up, passports always survive.
How are the
He's an
passports
active-duty Green Beret
not burned?
that's been stationed mostly out of Germany and Colorado. And the Green Beret community is digging into this deep and getting sources. And there's so much
That's the craziest part of it all. How did the passport survive?
Super duper thickened when the Sean Ryan show had this whole expose on this whistleblower scenario where he had Sam Shoemate on, who had apparently gotten an email from this Green Beret dude the day before the bombing. And the email is crazy spicy, but it's a little suspicious. If you haven't seen the Sean Ryan Show podcast episode yet, you should watch at least the first 30 to 45 minutes.
We watched like 8 minutes of it. You can watch the rest of it, but that was the email that we read.
Put it on 2 times speed. You should not believe everything that is said at face value. Remember, both these guys are military intelligence assets, former and current. This is the alleged email that Mr. Shoemate received, but notice that there are spell check red squigglies in here, and there's a cursor, and we've learned this before. This is not how an email appears when it is received in your inbox. This is how an email appears when you're typing it. But this is what the Sean Ryan Show put out as the email that was received, allegedly. And it alleges that the drones over the East Coast are Chinese tech and that they could bomb the White House at any minute. And it's like this whole, basically it alleges that World War III is about to happen between the US and China, and there's nothing we can do to stop it. And he's like trying to be a whistleblower to like stop it. But if this email is real, it's like the perfect food for the military-industrial complex and for World War III warmongering. But it gets weirder. So the Las Vegas officials and the FBI, who are totally trustworthy, have been assessing the scene. Hey, Gigi, don't do that. Stay over there. That's where they found the passport. They also found an incinerated Desert Eagle, which apparently he used to shoot himself in the head before the explosion. It was dropped on the floor right in between his feet in the driver's seat. And if you know anything about how powerful these guns are, and you imagine shooting yourself in the head with it and then it dropping straight down instead of like just flying into the not to mention that no one has reported any report from a gunshot in the car at the scene at the time, and that is like the most powerful handgun you can buy. A whole conspiracy on this thread is Teslas can drive themselves, and I don't know if anyone's ever tested the self-driving because it'll watch you, and if you don't look upwards, it'll tell you to look or it'll stop the self-driving, so you can't just look down at your phone or close your eyes and go to sleep. But has anyone ever tried it with a dead body that has its eyes open? Because that is probably possible. It's unclear. Because allegedly the remains of the person found in the front seat, though charred, burnt beyond recognition, the DNA did not match the DNA of this guy's recent child. Apparently his wife just broke up with him and they were trying to paint that as like he's angry. It's like Green Berets get divorces all the time. Like maybe the kid wasn't his kid. I think it's more likely that the body wasn't his body. Because again, in the email that was allegedly sent by him, theoretically, it's very clear that he's not planning to kill himself. He's planning to escape to Mexico and to do this whole thing in order to bring attention to this and to whistleblow and to be taken seriously and to get this out to as much news and publicity as possible and then escape to Mexico. He says it 2 different times in this email. The trunk was loaded up with all these crazy fireworks and there was some gas cans in the cab that caused the explosion to it's a little unclear. But it seems like the explosion was intended to not cause a bunch of death, but just to cause a scene. Like he chose a Cybertruck, which is bulletproof, like the worst car to build a car bomb in. And then he filled it with fireworks instead of he's a Green Beret. He could have built a real high power IED that could have blown the building up, theoretically. And then he says in the letter that he's trying to keep a low profile because he's being followed and they attempted to abduct him, but also that he's trying to keep a high profile because they know he has this IED, this car bomb rigged up. And so he got a Cybertruck, which is like, why would you get a Cybertruck? The police have had no trouble tracking the Cybertruck both in Las Vegas on CCTV footage and on its supercharger route across the country. The police said that they have tracked the purchase of the firearm, specifically the Desert Eagle, back in Colorado. There's a 3-day wait on purchasing a firearm in Colorado, so we had to have initiated the purchase 3 days before leaving Colorado to come to Las Vegas for this event. But then in the email, he gives as confirmation that he is who he says he is, First off, I'm not under duress or hostile influence or control. My first car was a 2006 black Ford Mustang V6 for verification. Well, people verified. People pulled his vehicle records, and actually he has never owned a 1996, was it? Ford Mustang, or a 2006 Ford Mustang, but his first car was a Ford Mustang, just totally different year. So it's not really like, could be that because it's 30 years ago, it's his own car 20 years ago and he just forgot the year. It could be like, why would you put the wrong verification in? Like, you'd think if it was someone else faking the letter, they would get the right verification because they wanted it to get verified. You think if it was him, like, maybe he misremembered it, maybe it's an intentional misverification. People are like, oh, maybe it was in his parents' name, because everyone's first cars are in their parents' name. Well, people pulled his parents' car records too. Check out Landry22 if you want to see those on X. But then the Las Vegas police, the officials, released like manifestos that they found on his phone, which was
Okay, so he actually had his own little manifesto on his phone that's different than what we saw, basically telling everyone to wake up.
like charred to oblivion. But they found these manifestos that, like, this one is basically like, yo, all military personnel, go and take the Capitol right now. It's
And so he said this is not a terrorist attack, it was a wake-up call. So this is why I said he was trying to send a message, but, you know, you can just read this whole thing if you want to.
like, the other one is just so weird. Then they released like video from his Tesla Cybertruck at the supercharge station that they said was in Las Vegas, but the internet has sleuthed around and pretty much confirmed that actually that was not in Las Vegas, it was in Arizona, because there's a Carl's Jr. Next to the supercharge station. They were looking for photos where there's a supercharge station and a Carl's Jr., and it's in Kingman, Arizona, which is that stop right there before getting to Las Vegas. Plus the Green Beret chatter on YouTube and X, and everyone in the Green Beret and like Special Forces communities that are commenting on this, saying it does not line up at all. Like, he did not have the expertise to understand this kind of stuff about drones. He did not have the clearance. He wasn't even like stationed in the places where they said he was stationed. It's all very sus. Not to mention that he was like a TV star with Tim Kennedy like 10 years ago on some like Special Forces.
I'll show
like,
you guys the
game
clip of that
show,
after this.
TV show. Whole other funny rabbit hole. But a bunch of guys know this guy. Like, a bunch of people on the internet right now have done operations and missions with him, or trained with him, or been stationed with him. So there's a lot floating around. And I don't have any answers. I don't know what's going on. But one thing that we can all agree on is that if the evidence starts praying or a war with Russia, it's probably the deep state setting you up for that war. And if I had to guess right now, here's what I would guess was going on. The military-industrial complex is learning as we go, and they are wise to the way this world works. And seeing how X has debunked all their other bullshit this last year, I'd bet right now, it looks like, they decided, what if we need to start our psyops using the decentralized media space as our patsy, as our pipeline of information, to deliver the information so that the internet thinks it's real. So the internet thinks it's coming from inside the house, right? And so they concoct a situation in which a known and trusted and verified internet sleuth, this dude on Instagram, who is like a military whistleblower, like hub. He's like the dude for military whistleblowers to go to. It makes sense that this guy would go to him. And so they concoct this email that goes out to him. And they concoct this scenario whereby it looks like either they got this guy and he's on the payroll, like this Green Beret guy is like in the op, or they captured him and are using him as a patsy, as the fall guy for the op. And it looks like they're feeding the information out into sort of vetted social media decentralized channels so that we are the ones producing the psyop ourselves. And it's just the source information that is actually manipulated. That is what it looks like right now. And keep your eyes peeled, stay frosty, don't believe a single fucking thing you see. And if any of it points to war with Iran or China or Russia, even if it seems credible, it's fucking not. Doesn't matter. We're not going to war. Fuck that shit.
Shout out to Ian Carroll for doing all the research for us, making my job a lot easier. So this is the thing we were talking about on the History Channel. Tim Kennedy tweeted himself. I mean, this guy was on TV, man. So he says, 13 years ago, I competed in a shooting competition on History Channel called the Ultimate Soldiers Challenge. My partner in this competition was Matt Berg, aka Matthew Livelsberger. Last night, when I saw old photos of him on the news, I put together that it was the same guy. He was a sincere, hardworking, talented, and competent Special Forces operator. I am flabbergasted and heartbroken to hear the news. None of this makes sense, and I, like many others, are confused and want more answers. So this is what it looks like, and here's some footage of it. I mean, this makes it a lot more suspicious in my opinion. I think it's just important to question everything. A lot of the story doesn't add up in the emails. There's so much debunking going on X. X is a great tool for you guys that want to research and look into this stuff. But, you know, with Luigi Mangione, with this, with all these manifestos making it so big on the news, and it just it just doesn't add up and it just doesn't make sense. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about this whole situation, and see you next time.